Hey, welcome to Ike's Vintage Tech. Have you ever started a project where it starts small and then it starts to morph into something a little bit bigger, and before you know it, you're starting to get buried in your work and you just set it aside until eventually it's just too big and it's in the way? Well, this is one of my projects that I set aside months ago, and it's absolutely in my way every day. Let's put it back together. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So what I have in front of us today is an Apple eMac that I picked up for like $20 8 or 9 months ago. It had some issues. It wouldn't boot up. There was software on it. It just wouldn't boot properly. The thing wouldn't reload software. I couldn't boot an external hard drive to it without it being corrupted. And overall, it was just giving me all sorts of errors. So I cracked it open, found plenty of bulging caps on the down converter board and on the logic board here. I went ahead and replaced those caps, and in doing so, I lifted one of the pads for the caps. You can kind of see it here. I did a bodge wire between two of the caps because they are in parallel. So basically, all the negative are connected on this side, and all the positive on this side. Not a big deal, but it was enough to set me aside where I put it away. I was done with it because it was a bad day. And it's been sitting in my garage ever since. In the way, every time I had to move something, I had to move all the parts, and it was just annoying. So I finally went ahead and fixed the bad cap job I did. Basically, I was using crappy soldering iron at work during my free time instead of the nicer one that I have here at home. It's just sometimes I have more free time at work. But all that aside, I finally got it fixed. It is ready to go back together, and I don't remember how I took it apart. Let's just go ahead and try to get this thing together on the video here, and hopefully I don't make a fool of myself. Hopefully it does work. There's no guarantee that this thing is going to work at the end of this because even though there are bad caps, there could be other issues where something in the chipset is bad, something all the different things that could go wrong here. It could be one of those problems too. So hopefully it was the bad caps. So let's go. Also assisting me today in this is iFixit. They have a complete teardown guide for this thing. So I am basically going to be referring to this on each step because it's been so long I forgot exactly how I took it apart. So thank goodness for the internet. So the first thing I see is that there's a motherboard assembly. So I believe that's on this cage here. So I'm going to have to start putting some stuff back together, unfortunately. This is going to be fun. Okay, so these two boards go together in this direction. It's been a minute. So the amazing thing about all this is that somehow I kept all the screws together. I believe I kept them together. We'll find out. Now this fourth screw I put in, it doesn't have a little ground pad like the others. So that may be screwed on in another way, but I'll put a screw there for now. Find out what happens later. Now that we got that out, we have to put back in the RAM. I'm going to put in a little clock battery while I'm at it. So this thing is upgradable up to 2 gig of RAM. Officially 1 gig is what Apple says. But you can buy memory up to 2 gig for it. Right now, I'm just going to keep the 1 gig in there because I don't want to put anything in here. I don't want to spend money on this thing if it doesn't work. So let's make sure it works first, and we'll go from there. Now, there's also the heatsink that has to go back on. I'm going to clean the thermal paste out with some alcohol and put some standard thermal paste back on there. I have these little alcohol wipes I get whenever I go on a flight. United just hands them out like candy. Take as many as they'll give you. They come in handy. All right, after some aggressive rubbing, I was able to get the thermal paste off of here. Apple used like a thermal epoxy almost. It was really tough to get off. Or is that dry? Who knows? So I'm going to put a little bit of Noctua brand thermal paste on here. Of course, it got a little sloppy at the end there. Doesn't matter. It will make a clean contact with the surface. They do have this little pad around here that just, I guess, keeps the thermal paste in. I'm not so concerned about removing that because it's going to still go over the die and make a clean contact, and it'll keep the temperature where it needs to be. So there is a little guide pin on the logic board where this thing needs to go through, and then down, and then somewhere here, right here, I got the little clip that goes into the logic board, and that'll keep it down nice and tight. There you go, just like that. Then on the back side here, there is a little screw hole to keep that on as well. All right, so I believe the next step here is putting in the DVD-ROM. So I did lose some screws. I had to find 4 screws to hold the DVD drive in. Not a big deal. Should be fairly easy to resource because they're all standard. This was so nice of Apple to put a small groove in here so you get your screwdriver in there. For once, they were thinking of the technician. Okay, now I believe I can get this thing started. So this is the computer side of the whole eMac. The other side is all CRT electronics. I didn't touch those. One day I'll probably have to, but for now, everything looks and appears okay. It doesn't always mean it is, but I wanted to get the thing that is definitely hurting the thing not working fixed first before I venture any deeper into this thing. Once again, it was a $20 eMac. Crazy enough, the prices have gone up on these things in the last year. So that is surprising, but I'm going to put this back together best I can. Okay, I did jump the gun a little bit there. I got to put the hard drive back on. Okay, a little part of doing this for the first time in several months is remembering the cable routing. Not entirely difficult, but annoying. So there's a little groove in the logic board here that the hard drive cable needs to slip into. It's probably not the end of the world if it doesn't get in there, but it is there for a reason. It's probably keep the cable from rubbing up against other components inside the board here, getting pinched, anything like that, and I don't want any of that. So let's put it in where it belongs. So we got that together. Now we should be able to simply put this back on the way it was intended. All right, learn the hard way. Before you go too far, reconnect your I/O cover. That will make life a little easier if you get that on ahead of time. Okay, now that we got the I/O shield on properly, that was a tight fit. We should be able to get the motherboard back on here, I hope. So let's get that done. Gonna want to line up the ribbon cable for the hard drive. Make sure that is in nice and snug. And then connect your power cable for the hard drive as well. Once that's together, you want this cage to slide just under the hard drive enclosure. And you want to make sure you're not pinching any cables like over here. Get everything nice and snug as it should be. This is going to be your power button cable that connects to the outer shell of the case. You've got another cable here for your monitor that goes onto there. That should clip right in. And then we just start putting screws together. You also have a lot of cables here for speakers and whatnot that go to this little section of the board there. Everything's keyed, so you're not going to get it in backwards or anything like that. So you just want to make sure everything is nice and snug, because you do have a little connector on the logic board that goes to the back plane of the CRT board. So you want to make sure that is connected properly. Now once everything is snug, you can assume that that cable or that connection is in there proper. So you got several screws around the perimeter of the cage. You just put those in, and then we're almost done. Okay, then the fan goes back on. I think it's still rather dirty, but it's one of those things where if it works, I'll take it apart that far to clean it really good. I just don't want to invest way too much time into this thing and then have it still not work. Okay, a little trial and error. I got this back together. The power cable for the fan goes up and around. There's a little groove with a grommet that sits in there. You've got your ground cable here. Little connector right here. That's pretty straightforward. And a couple more screws. So the screws that hold the fan on are not machine threaded screws. They are coarse threaded screws. And there's 3 of them, rather tiny, so those are easy to remember that they go there. So that is all together. Next step is to install the final shield. There's a couple screws here I already got in, and then 2 more down here. Okay, now that I got all that together, carefully put it back on, and you've got to connect the power cable here. Okay, once you got everything lined up, you've got several screws that you got to put back in. These just use a small Allen key, luckily, so it's nothing fancy you need to go buy. So once you get your bit, you can just start putting these things all around and you're good to go. Now it's good practice that you put 1 screw on each side before you put the rest in. That way if it's misaligned, you'll find out then and not after you've got half the screws in and you're wondering why the last 2 won't fit. And there it is. It is all together. Let's see if it boots up. All right, here we go. I got it plugged in, mouse and keyboard. As you can tell, things are a little dirty. Still need some TLC, but I just want to make sure it works first. So let's reach around here, grab that power button. Ooh, took a minute. Holy crap, there we go. Okay, so this thing has been off for a long time, disconnected. Are we gonna get a display though? Did I forget to plug something in monitor-wise? I don't believe so. Hey, there we go. So it is in open firmware. So that's something. Type Mac boot and see where it goes from here. Hey, there we go. So the geometry is definitely off. That needs some help. I forget if there's an OS on this drive. We will see. This thing has been sitting in pieces in my garage for probably 9 months, if I had to guess. Okay, so there is an OS. That's a good sign. So I'm going to go in here and see if I can get the geometry on the monitor set a little bit better. Okay, so there we go. That's a little bit better. I could probably spend half a day making it even better, but I'm not going that far with this thing. I am noticing that it boots. That's something it wouldn't really do before, so that's pretty nice about this Mac. Okay, I'm running 1046, 1.25 gigahertz with 1 gig of RAM. It's a G4, obviously. It's running. It's back together. It was not doing this before, so I believe the capacitors were the problem, especially when you look at them and they're bulging. Yeah, the one issue I had when I was desoldering, the issue I had was that the copper was like this big and it was just acting as a giant heat sink, so I had to up the temperature of the soldering iron. That wasn't really a great iron to begin with. If I had to do it all over again, I would use something like a Hakko or hot air possibly. That might have been a better option in that case. But using that bodge wire, I was able to get the right capacitance on that whole circuit, and everything is working great. So I'm going to go ahead and see what else I can do to this thing. Let's see if the CD-ROM is going to work. That does eject. I do have a Wi-Fi card for it I'm going to install. That is a little thing you do. Yeah, you remove this little thing here, and there's a slot that it just goes right into. Let me put that in and see how it works. Alrighty, I got my airport card here, never opened. So I just looked it up. I bought this airport card on eBay back in August of 2023. It is now May. So this thing has been sitting in my garage for all those months. I couldn't be bothered. I set it aside. I had other projects. I just moved on. I created a YouTube channel. Yeah, so it's been a busy year and I've had very little time for this thing. But now that I've got it working, let's go ahead and open up the Wi-Fi here. Packaged really well. Definitely used, clearly. But, you know, that's to be expected. Okay, got the airport card in there. Got it turned back on. This time it chimed right away. So I believe that's a good sign. Alrighty, so I'm still getting the computer clock error. I did not fix that yet. Not a big deal because now I've got Wi-Fi. Check out date and time. Set date automatically. It was that quick. It is Sunday, 1:40 p.m. So now you know what time I'm doing these things today. So yeah, that was very quick. So that was no problem at all. So there you have it. It was a $20 eMac. I put about another $20 worth of capacitors into it, and it is running again. Much better than before. It's actually booting this time. It has Wi-Fi for what that's worth, and it is running perfectly. No flickering, no errors. It's just working now. So my plans on this are I'm going to give it to my daughter. She loves to draw, so I'm going to put some applications on here for that and a Wacom tablet, and I'll let her go to town on that. That way I'm going to be saving reams of paper because she's going through printer paper pretty quickly, and I won't have to worry about finding crayons and markers all over the house. So that is my goal with this. Thank you for watching. I hope you liked the video. Like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, and keep the channel going. Thank you very much. Take care. Do you want this computer?
Yes.
Do you want to draw on it?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to teach you how to draw on this computer later, okay?
Okay.